Want to attract and convert more leads? Want to learn how digital PR, branding, and SEO can establish and build your brand identity? Welcome to the Market Movers Building Brands and Links with Linkifi podcast. We answer these questions and help you ramp up your brand visibility and credibility. Let's cut through the noise and make your business the talk of the town. We're your hosts, Nick and Chris. Let's get this show on the road.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this podcast episode. I am really excited today to be joined by Peter Shankman, who is the original founder of Haro. He is a prominent entrepreneur, author, keynote speaker, known for his expertise in marketing, customer experience, and neurodiversity. He has also founded a new journalist request platform called SOS as an answer to some of the changes that we've seen in recent months with Haro. So to discuss all of this and more, please welcome Peter Shankman.
Good to be here. Thanks, guys.
Hey, Peter, thanks for coming on. We're excited to talk to you today. To kick things off, why don't you just tell us a bit about your background?
Yes, I started my career, I had one job. I worked for America Online. I was hired in the newsroom at AOL back in '96 when AOL was the internet. And I helped launch the America Online newsroom. And we launched AOL News, actually 28 years ago this week. We were in Chicago covering the then 1996 Democratic conventions. And it was pretty amazing because it was the first time a digital news outlet had ever done something like that. So we launched AOL News. It was an amazing experience. Had an incredible time. Left AOL in early '97, I guess. Moved back to New York, started consulting for a little bit, or took a job, and then realized that AOL kind of spoiled me. They let us work any way we wanted to. And then I get into a job with a magazine in New York, and like the first week, said, okay, we have 8:30 meetings and 9 a.m. check-ins and 9:15 meetings. And I'm like, holy fuck, this is Russia. This is terrible. I hate this. And so I quit and I went on my own. I realized I had to work on my own, only on my own. And so I launched a PR firm, and that was amazing. The PR firm was, it was called the Geek Factory. And the Geek Factory represented the .com darlings, Napster, Juno, AOL, all those awesome clients back in the day. Left there, was consulting for years, and then I talked to everyone, right? I'm just, I'm massively ADHD. So if you know me, if you start talking to me, chances are I'm going to learn everything about you. And so I started creating this directory of all the reporters I knew, of everyone I knew. And that led to a journalist who knew me calling me and saying, hey, I'm doing a story on whatever. Who do you know? Oh, yeah, call this guy, call that guy, call whatever. And over time, that led to me having way more reporters calling me than I had any ability to do anything with. It just got too busy. And so I'm like, all right, what else can I do with this? Let me see. And I wound up creating a Facebook group. And the Facebook group blew up in like 5 minutes. And then, from there, I moved it over to an email list, and Haro was born. Help a reporter out, connected journalists with sources all around the world. It was built over the course of 3 years, got to about a couple 100,000 members. And it was acquired by a company called Vocus. Vocus later became Cision. Cision did some stuff. Primarily, Cision got bought out by private equity. And if you look through history, companies that get bought out by private equity tend to not do too well. Red Lobster did not cease to exist because of unlimited shrimp. Red Lobster ceased to exist because they were bought out by private equity. Malls did not cease to exist in the U.S. because of people weren't going to Sears or because of Amazon. Malls were leveraged by private equity, and so when private equity gets involved, it's usually not good. So after many people asked me, I decided maybe it is time to come up with a sort of a new idea behind what I originally built, and Source of Sources was launched. And I think what was missing from the old one was I cared about every reporter and every source that used it. And if a reporter came in and they were full of shit, they were gone. If a source came in and they pitched off topic, they were gone. And so now we have journalists and sources who trust the process again. At least I'm trying to build that. And so as they continue to trust the process, source of sources is growing bigger and bigger. So that's my goal, is to make it the best source and journalist repository in the world, where journalists can find the sources they need on deadline and sources they can get free press just by signing up.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, we won't dwell on Haro. We can touch on it as we have our conversation as we go through. But I am interested to know how long you were at the helm for, how long you had it before it was acquired by that initial company, and how long it maintained its format once it left your hands before we saw the change that we've seen now.
It took me 3 years to build it and get it acquired from start to finish. And I'm not your typical entrepreneur. I don't go out and I don't get financing. I just come up with an idea and go, this might be fun, and I launch it and see what happens. And that's literally how we did it. It blew up. And when it was acquired, the company who acquired it, Focus, was actually our biggest advertiser at the time. And so it was very easy in that regard to create something that I knew the audience would want. And once I figured out the audience wanted it, it was a question of how to build it and make it better.
Now, when you started it sounds like it started very organically. You're recording all this information, people are reaching out to you, and so you realize, like, there's a need for this. It'll actually make my life easier because I won't have to respond to every single journalist and who's reaching out. Was there anything else like this at the time, or was this the first platform of its kind?
There was a company called Profnet that was doing something similar.
Also acquired.
Right, but they were charging like $5,000 a year. They were part of PR Newswire. They were charging $5,000 a year. And I thought I could probably do this for free. I can sell ads to it, which is exactly what happened and exactly what's happening with SOS. It became a lot easier when I realized I could sell ads to it. All of a sudden, it wasn't an issue of, oh, wow, I'm a small business. I can't afford $5,000 a year. It was, wow, this is free. This is beneficial. So that sort of made it a much bigger or a much more immediate process for people to sign up.
Okay. So how long was the break between having nothing to do with Haro and then making the decision to come back to something you started all those years ago?
14 years. I sold it in 2010. I relaunched it in 2024. And I didn't want to. You can't go home again. I really didn't want to do this. And everyone kept emailing, oh my God, they took away this. Oh my God, they don't allow that anymore. Oh my God, they got rid of email. I'm like, for fuck's sake. I mean, literally, I remember sitting there and I finally get this email and I literally said, for fuck's sake. And I thought of the name and I'm like, all right. And I called a friend of mine who does websites. I'm like, can you build this? He's like, you do it again? I'm like, shut the fuck up. Just build it. I don't want to talk about it.
Okay, let's dive into that then. So we've seen the changes with the platform connectively. We've moved away from email. Many of the changes some people think were brought about in order to prevent the spam, but you tried to recreate your original creation from demand. So what have been some of the big complaints that you've seen, some of the reasons for the need for something which originally looks like what we all became so used to?
Again, this is just what people told me. What people told me is that there were no rules. There were no boundaries, that the majority of the queries and the answers they were getting were AI generated. So a journalist might get 500 answers to a query, and they're all AI generated, and none of them are beneficial. And so the first thing I did was immediately ban AI generation. You cannot, if you reply via AI only, I'll know, and you'll be gone. People weren't pitching on topic. They were harvesting the email addresses. And again, I wasn't using Haro. This was all told to me. And so I remember when I ran it, I was very strict. I ran a very strict ship. If you mess up, you're gone. I banned a journalist this morning who wasn't really a journalist. He was trying to, he pitched it under the guise of doing a story. And then when people would respond, he'd send an email. Yeah, here are the prices to be in my story. Get the fuck out of here. So, it's not difficult, but my premise is, look, you got to have trust. If you don't have trust to begin with, nothing exists. That's what I'm creating here.
One of the things I'm really curious about building a two-sided marketplace is really tough. You mentioned you had all the journalists, like you had that relationship. How do you get the sources to come on? How do you build that other side of the platform?
The source is 25 years of being in PR and 25 years of working with journalists and 25 years of journalists trusting me. If journalists didn't know me from Adam, they wouldn't use me. And that's sort of one of the key points. Journalists know who I am. They know Haro. They knew I ran a PR firm. Chances are they've worked with me in some capacity over my countless years of working in PR and marketing. They trust what I have to say. And then when they start getting the responses from people who I've not vetted, but people who know the rules and who trust me, we're good to go.
Well, let's talk about when you built Haro, because then I think now there's like, it's a big market. People want to be a source. But back then, I imagine there was kind of a new concept. When you're building that, you've got the journalist, you know the journalist. Excuse me. How are you finding the sources back then? How did you get that side of the...
Again, when I first started doing that, I'd still been working in PR for 10, 15 years before that. I mean, I launched the newsroom at AOL. I was a journalist to begin with. So I had some street cred.
So when you launched SOS and we started looking at it, it looked very similar to the original Haro. And you were basically live broadcasting the developments as they were happening, which was nice to see. So you were like, oh, this doesn't work. Give me a day, this will be happening. And you were like, oh, it's going to be late another day. And so that was like awesome. We basically just watching you build it up in real time per email. I think we weren't having like autoresponder emails initially. I think you hadn't quite figured that part out. We were having the actual like raw emails. I think that's now gone to the autoresponder. So where are we in the sort of development process of SOS, and how are things going so far in terms of like subscribers and the whole marketplace that you're creating?
So we are at about 25,000 members right now, which is pretty awesome. We continue to grow. My goal, like I said, is to become the biggest, just like Haro was. You know, there are still for the companies that are out there doing what I do. And I know like there are at least 2 other companies out there doing what I do. That's still 97% of small businesses in America that have not heard of a way to get free press and free exposure. And so knowing that, there is a lot of work that can still very much be done.
Okay. And where are we in terms of the email systems? Are we auto-responding? Is it a covered email now?
Yeah, I mean, right now that journalists enter their queries, they go live. Once the queries are live, they get manually looked at to make sure they're real. 99% of the time, they work. And the goal for me then is to get from there to make sure that they go out on time before the journalist deadline. And so that's sort of my goal. And we're growing bigger than we were. Every day we're getting bigger, get a couple hundred, 200, 300, 400 members a day. It is exciting. It's a lot of fun. I'm having a good time building it. But again, wasn't really planning on doing any of this.
Are you doing the manual reviews of each queries? Is that, or have you got it built a small team now?
I have an assistant. I have an intern who works with me. She'll be with me for a couple more weeks. Then at some point I'll wind up hiring someone. But I've set up a system where it's really not hard to do it at all. It's actually quite easy to set it up and run with it. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. You mentioned that you're really strict on AI pitches as well, that you'll kick anyone off. How do you monitor those and detect AI?
It's very simple. Reporters call me back and they say, hey, the reporter will email me and say, hey, I just got this email. This looks to be bullshit. Can you handle it? And I'm like, yep. Look up the email. They're gone. There are, what I've really learned to do really well, which I'm enjoying, is the number of overseas, I guess, admin assistant companies who have said, oh yeah, we'll monitor queries for you, and send out the most bullshit queries in the whole world. There was someone I was having a really hard time getting, finding their info, because they were obviously using SOS under a fake name, and then emailing journalists with their clients' queries. So I couldn't find their name. So I finally was able to figure out Google backtracing their email. I figured out eventually the server they were using. From the server, I was able to figure out the company that they were going under to use this. I went to that company's website, found their client list, figured out the client company in Indonesia who was acting as virtual assistants, went to their website, sent them a note saying, "Hi, I'm looking for a virtual assistant. Can someone please contact me back with prices?" Got the actual email address and banned the domain.
It's a lot of detective work.
It was fun. It took me about 20 minutes on a Saturday. I had nothing else to do. It was raining.
It does sound fun. I do think that's a good idea, having the journalist report, because the journalists have an active interest in getting rid of those people from the platform so there's more useful for them. And then that it also means you don't have to have a big staff that's reviewing all the queries, looking for AI or any sort of software looking for that. You're just relying on the journalist to report it.
Correct.
One of the things that I think is really super cool about the SOS platform, and I'm not quite sure where you are yet with this partnership, but the muckrack verification of the journalists. So as an original user of Haro and all of the other journalist request platforms, oftentimes you do see the scams coming in from the other side. So protection for sources to be able to verify the time and effort that they're going to put in to produce a pitch, do their research, and not be sending it to some company who's going to just send you back a price list is a really nice addition, I think.
And again, I think that other companies don't take the time to do that. And because of that, it just won't work. Because if you're on that mailing list and you try once, you try twice, both times you get bullshitted back, you're not going to stick around.
So I'm curious, what's on the roadmap for SOS? What kind of features will we have in the coming year?
I'm launching next week. Or 2 weeks from now, I'm launching a gift list. A gift bag list, so people can post, "Hey, I'm running an event. I'm looking for gift bag queries. I'm looking for people to submit products to put in our gift bags, and we'll get support behind that." So that's number one. What else are we doing? We're more topics. So you'll be able to do, we're launching pharma, individual tech breakdowns, things like that. And eventually we'll probably wind up launching individual emails. So if you only want business queries, that's all you get. If you only want tech, that's all you get.
You said pharma?
Pharma's coming up, and we'll do probably specific to parenting, things like that.
Peter, I would just love to ask you some questions if you could share with our audience, users of SOS that want to maximize their chances of scoring some of the best coverage possible. I mean, I look at the SOS emails daily, and the quality of the domains that are sourcing is, phenomenal. How can they maximize their chances from your experience in your years of PR and, being the founder of this platform? How can they curry favor with journalists?
Best way to do it is to make sure that you are one of the first people to respond. Have your pitch ready to go, fill in the answer, make sure it's on topic, on point, and be one of the first people to respond, because there are so many people who respond. Right? The second that email comes out, the journalist is getting inundated with queries. I know people who set their phone alarm to react to that email.
Okay. So speed is a key, yeah?
Speed is key. And also being on point and being on topic. Making sure that you have the exact answer that you want to get.
Mm-hmm. Do you know how many pitches journalists are getting on average? It's hopefully not still around 500.
Right now, anywhere from 50 to 100 per query. And I believe they're using on average about 5 of those. So you really want to be first.
Any tips on subject lines?
Just be brief and be relevant. Something like, if you're looking at a journalist looking for someone who's created an app that has over $1 million in revenue. Subject line: I've created 6 apps, all have over $1 million in revenue. Dear journalist, so you were looking for this piece. I've created 6 apps. They are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Each one has generated over 6 million, 10 million, 15 million, whatever in revenue. Here's my contact information. Happy to chat more about what I did, my mistakes, and my successes. All the best, Peter. Done. That's it. Send.
Okay. No fluff. They haven't got time, have they?
They don't. They really don't. That's the key.
And one thing that we're noticing as well is it's becoming much less about the how interesting or out of the box your pitch is. The journalists are just looking to be able to quickly and easily verify the credentials of the person that's pitching them, and then for the comments to be valid, and then for them to be able to leverage the expertise and credentials of the person who sent the pitch. So almost less is more, I suppose.
Yeah, 100%. There'll be time for you to tell your story in great detail, but right now, consider this the 7-minute super date, where they determine if they want to go out with you again.
What kind of vetting do most journalists do? So we have our clients, we'll make sure they're on the About page. We make sure that they have an active LinkedIn profile. What do you think journalists usually do when they're vetting to make sure, like they're going to quote a doctor, they want to make sure they're actually a doctor? What do they do?
Yeah, a lot of times they will check. They'll call the hospital. They'll email the whatever. They'll at least go to the website and look. There was a bad actor several years ago who actually wrote a book about how he managed to fake out tons of journalists. And it's kind of a dick. I've dealt with him on several occasions. Guy's pretty much a dick. But the problem with doing that is that the second he did that, he lost all credibility. Like, he'll never get quoted in the media again, right? There are better ways to do that, right? It's I equated it back when it happened to the guy who his only desire is to have sex with the prom queen. He finally gets to have sex with the prom queen, and he tells everyone he had sex with the prom queen. Well, the fact that he told everyone becomes the bigger story, and all of a sudden he's not having sex with anyone again. Because who wants to fuck someone who's that much of a dick, right?
What was this guy's motive for faking credentials? Just to be in the media?
Wanted to write a book.
Well, I would say most of our clients, they have the actual credentials. It's just a matter of like, we want to make sure that it's easy for the journalist to verify. So do you know if there's...
The best thing they can do, the best thing your clients can do is write in the email their name. Okay, hope to hear from you. Here, Peter Shankman, phone number, title, email. If it's a doctor, make sure that email is connected to the hospital, wherever they're licensed or have privilege or whatever it is. Give the journalist as much information in the end for them to get through that initial, are they full of shit or are they real test? And if they want more, they can get it.
Just quickly, one question on that. On the inbound side, journalists receiving the emails, are the URLs that you include in the email broken down to like plain HTML? With the old system, they used to get like stripped out the hyperlinks, I think, if I remember correctly. No,
because you're sending the emails. I haven't moved to a system yet where they're being auto forwarded. You have an email person's address. You have a journalist's address. You click on that email and send your own email.
Okay. Did that used to happen when they were being auto forwarded then? Did the hyperlinks get stripped out?
With Help a Reporter, when I did it, no, but maybe that was something they changed.
Okay. It's just worth knowing because, sometimes you really do need to give the journalists an easy way to...
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, my job isn't to mess with how you deliver your info. Your job is to deliver your info in a way that the journalists need. So I'm not messing with that.
Okay, well, Peter, anything else that you want to tell our audience about SOS, why they should subscribe, where they can win coverage from, and best ways to go about that?
So SOS is sourceofsources.com. It is 100% free. It is advertiser supported, a small little text at the top of each email. You sign up, you get 2 to 3 emails a day from journalists asking for your help. The more people that sign up, the more journalists will use it. The more journalists will use it, the better chance you have of getting press. So the best thing that you can do, that your clients can do, that everyone can do is tell people about it. Tell their journalist friends about it. Tell their source friends about it. Hey, you run that bakery. You should get in this newspaper. My friend ran a bakery and he was in the Wall Street Journal. That's really a true story. When I ran Haro, there was a bakery in the Midwest. I don't remember the name. I wish I did. That was like 5 days from having to shut down from bankruptcy. And they got featured in a Wall Street Journal article, and they rebounded from that article to the likes of which you couldn't believe. I mean, that article saved their business.
Oh, that's amazing.
Okay, Peter, let's say SOS, it gets to 500,000 subscribers in the next 2 years. Are you selling to private equity or what?
I didn't sell to private equity in the first place. No, I mean, I'd love to continue running it, partner with a couple of really smart companies. Look, I know what I'm good at. I'm great at execution in the beginning. I'm great at coming up with a great idea. And then at some point, my ADHD is going to kick in and be like, this is boring. I could have run Haro and made Haro 5 million, 10 million people, but I would have had 300 people working for me. I would have been a boss. I would have had to do health insurance and all that bullshit that I don't want, I had for everyone. I just want to have fun. And so I'm doing what I'm good at. And eventually I'll either bring someone in to do it better or, I'll merge with someone. But the goal, I've learned a lot since last time. So I'm having fun.
Peter, it's been great having you on. I wanted to ask one last question. It's kind of a strange one. What's the most bizarre thing you've seen come out of one of these platforms, Haro or SOS? Any like really incredible stories like, wow, that came from my platform?
Well, Wall Street Journal was a big one. I remember someone, this isn't Haro specific, but I used to date a woman who was just getting started as a psychologist. And we were living together at the time as she was getting her PhD. And friend of mine, a reporter at I think New York one of the local New York news stations called me and said, "Hey, I'm doing a story. You know any child psychologists?" I'm like, funnily enough, my girlfriend is. So she's like, "Oh, I've never been on TV before. Let's go. It'll be super easy. It's local." Fast forward 20 years, this girl's the Today Show psychologist. And not a week goes by where she's not on the Today Show, and my mother sees her and doesn't call me, "Peter, you know what I saw?" "Yes, you saw Jen. I get it." So it's amazing what PR can do. Jen and I are still really good friends. We run another company together.
It can launch careers. That's amazing.
Small world.
That's awesome. Okay. Peter, where can people find you if they want to reach out?
I'm Peter at Shankman.com. My website is Shankman.com. Obviously, SOS is sourceofsources.com. And I'm everywhere on the socials except Twitter at Peter Shankman.
All right. Peter, it's awesome having you come on. Thanks a lot.
Pleasure was mine, guys.
And that wraps up this episode of Market Movers, Building Brands and Links with Linkifi. Big thanks to our parent company, Linkifi, the wizards behind turning ambitious businesses into standout brands. Hit up our website at linkifi.io and take the first steps towards brand greatness. Big shout out to Fame for making this podcast possible. Thanks for listening, folks. Stick around for more insights in our next episode. Catch you later.